Please come in. You're right on time. The door only opens when the clock strikes midnight. Georgia and Hannah are preparing to broadcast from the belfry. Just like this old bell tower, they have many stories to tell. Some old and some new. Follow me up these stairs, but mind your step. Ah, they're waiting for you.
Georgia deserves a little treat.
I have a lot of issues. It's fine.
It's fine.
Most of them come from inside of me. You know, like the call is coming from inside the house.
Mm-hmm.
And the call is from an axe murderer, but it's just my ovaries. Okay. Well, I'm going to tell you all about types of hauntings today. You know, we talked about why people believe in, well, kind of why people believe in ghosts. Thanks, baby.
Georgia received a little treat.
What's in here? Chicken nuggets. Oh, thanks, baby. Wait. Oh my god, you're so sweaty.
I don't have enough money for chicken nuggets. It's hot out there, bro. It's hot.
Oh, they didn't put sweetener in it today. I never understand with them because sometimes they just put sweetener in it and sometimes they just don't. And I never understand, like, who is training you it so inconsistently.
Girl,
it's
I do
fine.
not fucking know. But it feels like 87 outside right now.
Yeah, it's fucking disgusting.
I turned our AC down. I was like, I want to be cold.
We haven't had ours on at all yet, but I was like, today might be the day. By the time it comes to D&D time and these lights have to be on and these lights get so warm, like it might be time.
Yeah. So
anyway,
types of hauntings. Georgia got a little treat, and now we're ready to learn.
I can be caffeinated. Let me just chug a bunch of it real quick. It'll hit in like 5 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, iced coffee.
Yep. Okay, so the first one I'm going to talk about is a residual haunting.
Yes.
A residual haunting is a type of haunting that does not respond to the contemporary environment surrounding it.
Uh-huh.
So it's described by the Psychic Library as remnants of past traumatic events that happened at or near a location prior to someone's death. Could be a noise or a smell, like footsteps, some kind of apparition that might occur at the same time every day or every week or every month or whatever on an anniversary of something. Or it could only be during certain weather conditions or like every week, but only if it's a stormy night or, like whatever. These certain conditions have to be met. This residual haunting will occur. There's a thing called the stone tape theory, which basically posits that these hauntings work like tape recording. So this is like the explanation of why residual hauntings happen. And it's that energy impressions are made during emotional or traumatic events, and they are recorded into stone. And if you think that sounds weirdly similar to the plot of Doctor Who's episode Hyde in the 7th season, it's one of Clara's first episodes, then you would be correct.
Oh my god.
Because that episode was directly inspired by a BBC Christmas ghost story from 1972 called The Stone Tape, and that's where the name of this theory comes from. And it'll sound more like the plot of that episode as I talk about it.
Okay.
I actually really like that episode too.
Me too.
It's a good one. So several theories and beliefs and thought processes from different people kind of led to the formation of the stone tape theory. And most people will credit Charles Babbage for writing the earliest mention of what would become known as place memory.
Mm.
In something he wrote in 1838 called the Ninth Bridgewater Treatise, which is funny in itself because he wrote it as a response to the Bridgewater Treatises from 1837, and this was something funded by the Earl of Bridgewater, and he invited 8 scientists to write something that demonstrated scientific support of God, basically. But Charles Babbage was not one of those 8 invited scientists, because one of the other contributing authors didn't believe that mechanical philosophers and mathematicians belonged in the discourse of science and theology.
Sure.
So he said, I have something to say about this, and published his own 9th treatise, describing God as basically what we would call a computer programmer, as Charles Babbage himself was. The important thing to take from that is basically that Charles Babbage suggested that spoken words can leave permanent impressions on the air because of the transfer of motion between particles. And they just become inaudible over time. And then this kind of fed into the development of this idea of place memory. And this is, Charles Babbage said, the air itself is one vast library on whose pages are forever written all that man has ever said or women whispered. There, in their mutable but unerring characters, mixed with the earliest as well as with the latest sighs of mortality, stand forever recorded, vows unredeemed, promises unfulfilled, perpetuating in the united movements of each particle the testimony of man's changeful will. It's very poetic.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Good writer.
Yeah. Also, shout out to his partner in crime, Ada Lovelace, who we've talked about before.
We have.
The opposite of a shout out to Lord Byron, because you're stupid.
Seriously.
So then Babbage's ideas were kind of expanded upon by the Society for Psychical Research, who considered it to be an explanation for ghosts that appeared to be connected with specific locations. And then in the late 1800s, 2 of the Society's members, Edmund Gurney and Eleanor Sidgwick, posited that certain building materials were conducive to hauntings, and also that they could probably cause some hallucinations. It's just carbon monoxide. Then in the 1900s, Harry Price, one of my fave guys,
hell yeah,
who did a bunch of tests on our girl Helen Duncan, he comes up with the idea of psychic ether, which must exist between the spiritual plane and the physical plane. And this is what makes it possible for certain objects to carry memories or emotions, because the psychic ether is like present in that area, I guess. It's really hard to explain this because they're trying so hard to make it sound like science, but then there's just like gaps. And but anyway, so I guess it's because the psychic ether is present in this place, but not that place. And this plane can be seen by those gifted with psychic abilities, this plane where the psychic ether exists. And he described it as a result of the emotions or other experiences of some person who formerly inhabited the room, much as fingerprints result automatically from our handling of a wine glass or a poker. Why a poker?
I don't know.
And then following that line of thought, this other guy took it a step further, saying that the memory...
What was that?
This fucking guy has just been driving around the neighborhood.
Even I heard that, and I never hear anything.
No. It's been constant. The cops were at my Hungarian neighbor's house the other day, and we kind of think maybe she has been complaining about it.
Oh.
Like a noise complaint.
Good.
Yeah. I'm just going to start again because that was really loud.
Fine.
Following that line of thought, this other guy took it a step further, saying that the memories or emotions are tied to objects through this field of energy, which is found mostly in natural areas like rivers, mountains, forests, which sounds kind of familiar to other things we've talked about when we've talked about other supernatural entities a little bit. Or
they like to be outside.
Beliefs in animism a little bit, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the name Stone Tape Theory has been incorrectly attributed to this guy. And this is the guy I want to tell you about.
Oh, no. Does he have a funny name?
His name is T.C. Lethbridge.
That's okay.
Not related to Brigadier Lethbridge Stewart, going back to Doctor Who.
Oh, bruh.
But, like, that's not familiar to you at all?
No.
Okay. I could not have written a better or more on-brand Call of Cthulhu character if I tried.
Oh.
This guy is amazing. But not in a great way. I mean, he's not terrible, but, like, you'll see. Okay.
He's just interesting?
Yeah, he goes off... Well, like I said, he sounds like a Call of Cthulhu character. He definitely goes off the deep end at the end.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. Thomas Charles Lethbridge was born in 1901, also on brand for Call of Cthulhu character.
Mm-hmm.
And as a boy, he developed interests in archaeology, entomology, ornithology, and drawing. And his family wanted him to join the Royal Navy, but he failed the entrance exam. So after World War I ended, he enrolled at Trinity College, Cambridge in 1921 to study geology and geography. But he thought geology was too boring.
I get that.
So he and some other...
Sorry, Sarah.
I know. He and some other students joined a Norwegian expedition to visit the Arctic Circle, and they became the first team to successfully summit what is known as Bears Mountain. And then in 1922, he just went sailing around the Scottish Hebrides because he could. Oh. And then in 1923, he went on another expedition, which was supposed to be about geological and archaeological surveying on the eastern coast of Greenland, as well as repeating something called the pendulum gravity experiments.
Okay.
But they got stuck in pack ice and ended up having to survive off of meat from gray seals and polar bears that they hunted before they gave up and went back home. Then he was offered an honorary position, the keeper of Anglo-Saxon antiquities at the Cambridge Museum of Archaeology and Ethnology. And he participated in some other excavations, but apparently his actual excavation work was sloppy, and he was all about trusting his instinct rather than the dogma of the profession. Regardless, he produced 60 archaeological reports whilst at the museum, though they were informal, used humor, and featured narrative descriptions of the excavation process. This is how I write papers for conferences.
Mm-hmm.
With the onset of World War II, he did actually organize for a lot of the museum's collections to be transferred to a nearby cave system, thankfully, and also became an air raid warden and led salvage excavations of 10 prehistoric tumuli that were being destroyed during the construction of an RAF base. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's doing mitigation.
Yeah.
Even though he was apparently not great.
Yeah.
He just went by vibes.
Yeah, he did. And by this time, he was already exploring his interests in the paranormal as well.
Hmm.
This is why I kind of think that he is a Call of Cthulhu character, right? Because he probably has like 30 points in archaeology.
Mm-hmm.
And 50 points in occult, but his profession is like antiquarian or archaeologist or something, and he's just not very good at it. So he fully believed that he knew a genuine psychic and that he saw a UFO. And towards the end of World War II, he was back into Anglo-Saxon archaeology. He then published books about Britain in the Dark Ages. He published books about Celtic seafarers, about Picts, about boat building and seafaring men. But by the late 50s, he was really disillusioned by like academic archaeology and the professionals that he had met in the field.
This guy was really interested in everything.
Yeah.
No wonder he would be disillusioned, because there are so many people who are like, I'm going to focus on this one thing and I'm going to be a bitch about it.
Yeah. I mean, I kind of get it. Like, I get what he's, Yeah. And a lot of academic archaeologists still are just kind of assholes. So
yeah.
It was during this time that he resigned from Cambridge and moved into a place called Hull House in Devon, in the south of England. And he decided that this place was haunted and that he needed to investigate it in a scientific manner, which also reminded me of the episode of Doctor Who. But then he went off the deep end and he unfortunately got into like pseudoscience and that kind of thing. Obviously, I mean, he's investigating paranormal activity in the 50s. Another Anglo-Saxon archaeologist named Sam Lucy said about him that his observations of Anglo-Saxon material culture, while largely ignored by his, they say largely?
Oh, I thought you
Largely?
said largely. Largely ignored.
I'm just gonna drink some more of this.
Largely. Largely.
Oh my
I
god.
like that. I like it.
While largely ignored by his contemporaries, were widely accepted in scholarship by the late 1900s. So even though no one at the time thought he made any sense, as things developed, people were actually like, oh, he was actually right about this. This section of his Wikipedia page concludes with, however, his unorthodox and pseudoscientific views later led to professional archaeologists becoming increasingly critical of his work. As his biographer Terry Wellborn noted, Lethbridge's peers came to view him as being too radical, a loose cannon, and a maverick.
Slay.
So literally, he's a guy living his best white guy academic explorer lifestyle in the 20s, and then something happens in the 30s, and he starts going down this paranormal rabbit hole and ends up being batshit crazy. And if that's not a Call of Cthulhu character, I don't know what is.
Yeah, he probably had some sort of mental illness happen to him, or maybe he had something unexplainable happen.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people, like some of the researchers that work for the society, Society for Psychical Research, a lot of people ended up joining the society because something happened to them, whether it was like one of their family members died and they were kind of searching for answers.
Right.
You know, like usually it's something personal happened to someone. And I didn't see anything about that. I mean, all that's from his Wikipedia page. I didn't really do like a deep dive into this guy.
Yeah.
But, you know, who's to say something? I know his dad died when he was really young. And so maybe that had something to do with it. You know, maybe he was searching for answers about where his dad is in the afterlife or whatever, you know?
Yeah, where his dad is, or maybe something happened with his dad before he died. I know the psychical research thing really focused on like the people having hallucinations as like that being the apparitions. So maybe the people who were really looking into that kind of thing had people in their life that were experiencing hallucinations.
And I kind of mentioned it before when I talked about Helen Duncan, but this period of time in between the world wars was huge for the spiritualism movement because so many people had lost so many family members during World War I, and they were just trying to find comfort or seek answers. A lot of people didn't even know if their loved ones were actually dead.
Yeah.
You know, they just were presumed dead. I think I will be talking about that in the next season a lot more.
Okay.
Because it's a fascinating topic, and there's a lot of really interesting characters.
There sure are.
Like Harry Price.
Yeah.
So like I said, the term stone tape was inaccurately attributed to this guy, but he did buy into that theory. He just didn't coin the phrase. And to clarify, tape in this context refers to the old school magnetic tape recording developed in 1878 that works by converting electrical audio signals into magnetic energy, and then a recording of that signal is imprinted onto a moving tape, and then playback happens when that recording is then converted into electrical energy and amplified. And even though I just described how that works, I still could not, I cannot wrap my brain around that. It is
me neither.
It is bananas to me.
I was trying to follow, but my brain is just like,
I know, like
that's some other scientific shit that I'm just not following.
No. So the stone tape theory says that stone, especially limestone and quartz, can record the energy of these strong emotions or traumatic events, and then playback happens when those conditions are met or when someone sensitive enough to experience it is present.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, the skeptic's argument is that stone doesn't work the way that reels of tape do, and emotions don't have properties that could be captured in a physical, measurable way. And while I am pretty skeptical, for the most part, I would also, it kind of goes back to that conversation we had about, like, magic is just science we don't understand yet.
Mm-hmm.
You know? I did find an actual academic paper with an abstract and everything from St. Mary's University of Minnesota. It's called Using GIS to Analyze Relationships to Explore Paranormal Occurrences in the Continental United States.
What?
Yeah.
GIS?
Yeah.
How?
And so I didn't hardcore read the whole thing, but I did skim kind of like the beginning and the end, just to get the gist of it. It's not actually that long. I was just doing it late at night. But it goes into the fact that paranormal investigators validate the stone tape theory with the first law of thermodynamics, which states that energy cannot be created or destroyed, only changed from one form to another. Which we all widely accept is true.
Yeah.
Also widely accepted as true is that an object in motion stays in motion, and that is me.
Yeah.
Until I sit down.
Yeah, I still need to practice that more.
It also talks about how it's widely accepted in okay. It also talks about how it's widely accepted that paranormal activity either alters magnetic fields and uses the magnetic field from another plane, or uses the magnetic field from another plane or dimension or whatever to manifest. And that because paranormal activity is believed to be electrical by nature, then water can essentially act as a conductor. Kind of going back to what Lethbridge believed about these fields, specifically around natural things, which usually contain water. So for these reasons, limestone and then rock that comes from areas with quartz deposits, magnetite deposits, and deposits of other magnetic minerals are some of those building materials that particularly catch the attention of investigators. And basically what this paper did was take locations featured in episodes of Ghost Hunters and then look at their locations and do some correlation. And they found that in the locations featured in the show, limestone did have the highest correlation with haunted locations. And there was a strong connection between those areas of quartz deposits and haunted locations as well. So that's how they use GIS.
What the hell? That's so cool.
Isn't it fun?
Man. Hell yeah. This is so cool. I'm glad they had positive results.
I know. It's so fun.
I know, the whole correlation does not equal causation, but I mean...
I know. And we can talk about this more in the discussion, but it really does make me go back. Like, in 1,000 years, are they going to be like, yeah, they believe that ghosts exist, but now we just know that it's this thing, you know? And it seems like a lot of people who believe in ghosts from this theory just actually believe them to be temporal projections of emotions or experiences. Again, just like the episode of Doctor Who. Then we have intelligent hauntings. And intelligent hauntings are characterized by the entity seeming conscious or sentient and aware of its surroundings and interacting with people or objects. Intelligent hauntings are what we think of when ghost hunters ask, is anyone here with me now? And wait for an answer. Or can you turn off the flashlight or whatever. And they're also the kind of spirits we associate with unfinished business or an attachment to a certain location or object. Intelligent hauntings may exhibit the same like smells, sounds, that kind of thing, like residual hauntings, but they also include things like, your doors opening and closing on their own, lights turning off and on, objects being moved or thrown, cold spots, and people reporting that they've been touched or scratched. And some people believe that intelligent hauntings are proof that the human consciousness continues to exist in some way after death. And apparently this is called the survival hypothesis, the survival of consciousness. So, like I said, these spirits can attach themselves to objects as well as places, giving us haunted objects. And apparently, haunted objects and cursed objects are two different things, but many times haunted objects, it's like a cursed object is a haunted object, but a haunted object is not a cursed object. You know, like a square is a rectangle, but a rectangle is not a square. You know?
Yeah.
I say that so much.
Me too. It's fine. There are a lot of things like that.
So the line does seem to be kind of blurred, but what I mostly found is that a cursed object is a haunted object that causes harm.
Yeah.
So Annabelle is one of the most famous examples.
Mm-hmm.
A Raggedy Ann doll that inspired the movie of the same name, of course, was known to scratch, maybe strangle, allegedly, if I remember correctly. But I wanted to tell you about the Dybbuk box. Do you know about the Dybbuk box? Dybbuk box.
No.
D-Y-B-B-U-K or D-I-B. It's now widely believed to have been a hoax and kind of a cringy one in my opinion because the story is that it was supposed to be a Jewish wine cabinet made in Spain and originally owned by a woman who survived the Holocaust. And it's haunted by a Dybbuk, which is basically a malicious spirit from Jewish mythology. Mm-hmm. And I just think it's cringy because why does it have to be like Jewish and Holocaust and
like people specifically made that story so it could be tragic? That's terrible.
So it surfaced in 2003 on eBay, owned by this guy named Kevin, who said he found it at a yard sale. And then it went through a string of owners who all said that it amplified their own paranormal experiences before ending up in Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum in Vegas. Mm-hmm. Sam Raimi actually made The Possession based on this object.
Oh.
A movie I have not seen.
Oh, you should see it.
Should I?
I think so.
Okay, I don't really watch horror movies.
Oh, that's true.
Contrary to what my persona might give off, I only like the old ones. But anyway, someone made a website consolidating all these claims and experiences about it. Even Post Malone in 2018 went to hang out with ZB, as that's my name for Zach Bagans.
Yep.
And fucked around with it. And then in the span of 1 month, he was on a plane that had to do an emergency landing because 2 of the tires blew off during takeoff. Then he got into a pretty bad car wreck in his Rolls Royce, which is my dream car for the record. 1920s Rolls Royce Phantom, thank you. If anyone wants to buy me a gift. And then armed robbers broke into his former home, not knowing that he wasn't there anymore, and they were like demanding that he showed himself. And now there's a video of him at the museum, probably because ZB has cameras everywhere in there. I think partly for security, but probably mostly to try and catch any paranormal activity. Mm-hmm. And the video shows Zach like holding the box and like, oh, like, you know, taunting Post Malone with it. And they're like laughing, and then he touches Zach on the shoulder while he's holding it. And of course, Zach says that would have been enough for an evil spirit to pass over and into Post Malone.
Okay.
But that was 3 years after Kevin straight up said, yo, I made it up. Mm-hmm. He made a post to some Facebook page saying, I am the original creator of the story of the Dybbuk box, which appeared as one of my eBay posts back in 2003. And then he goes on to say, if you or anyone else can find any reference to a Dybbuk box anywhere in history prior to my eBay post, I'll pay you $100,000 and tattoo your name on my forehead.
Okay.
And those terms aren't very clear, so I kind of want to be like, let's go, bitch.
Yep.
Also, in 2019, a guy examined it and determined that it was, in fact, just a minibar from New York.
Love that.
Not an antique wine box made in Spain.
No.
The main other kind of haunting that people tend to associate with potentially harmful spirit is the poltergeist, which is a German word for noisy spirit. Poltergeists are said to be capable of hitting or biting people, levitating people or objects, causing bad smells, loud knocking on walls, doors, floors, and causing spontaneous fires. But they're just mischievous little guys, you know?
Yeah, Peeves the poltergeist.
Yeah.
He was kind of an asshole.
Some people believe that they are manifestations of disembodied elemental spirits, while others think there are other explanations, which we'll come back to. One of the most famous poltergeist cases comes from Britain in the 1970s. It's the story of the Enfield poltergeist. Enfield is a district of London, and there in August 30th, 1977, in a small semi-detached house, lived single mother Peggy Hodgson with her 4 children. Margaret was the oldest at 13, then Janet was 11, Johnny was 10, and Billy was 7. Which I like how the girls have old lady names, and then there's Johnny and Billy, like the 2 most stereotypical boy-child names.
Yep. What about like Sally and
stuff? Yeah, Lucy. The first reported activity in the house was furniture being moved around the girls' room. So Peggy, it's like the middle of the night, and Peggy goes and tells the kids to stop mucking about. Stop mucking about!
Me too.
She went to move the furniture back and saw it moving again, and she tried to move it back, and she couldn't. So she got scared and ran over to the neighbor's house, who came back with her, Vic and his son Gary. And then they all heard noises all over the house, all different kinds of noises, knocking and banging all over the house. So they called the police, who also documented that they heard the noises, but were unable to find a source. You know, it's like 1 a.m, they're checking pipes and all kinds of stuff, and they couldn't find anything. And the next evening, probably because she's freaked out, Vic goes over and is said to be attacked with flying Legos. And then for the next 3 days, people are like coming in to see what's going on. Council members, so like it's a council house, which it's like, what's the equivalent over here? They're like houses owned by the local council, kind of like low income housing, you know, like you have to apply to live in them, and you have to like meet certain financial.
Oh, Section 8.
Yeah. Kind of like that. So different like members from the council come, clergy members, you know, they're all coming over and trying to be like, what the fuck is going on here? And they all see these, you know, Legos, marbles, silverware, like all kinds of stuff like flying all over the house. Vic's wife calls the papers. I'm going to call the news. On September 4th, so the original thing was on August 30th. So September 4th, a reporter and a photographer were sent out from the Daily Mirror, which is one of the bigger papers in the UK. And here's a quote from the photographer. "I thought it was an ordinary job until I walked into the house. I stood in the gloom in the kitchen, and one by one they brought the children into the adults' arms." I don't understand the way this guy talks. "And the last one to come in was Janet. Suddenly things just took off and started flying around the room. I got hit by a Lego brick over my right eye. It gave me a lump for a few days. There was a fair bit of force. There were marbles and things left in the kitchen that were just flying around the room. I was watching all of them, and none of them was doing anything." The kids.
Yeah.
The family, yeah. Then a senior reporter visited the house with another photographer, and he didn't believe Peggy at first, but he said something about the atmosphere at the house made him realize something serious was happening. So he suggested they contact the Society for Psychical Research.
Nice.
And this is how Maurice Gross entered the scene, and he was quite new to the society because he joined after his 24-year-old daughter tragically died. And he visited the house the next day on September 5th, and he said it was just chaos, and you know, Peggy was there, the kids, the neighbors, all these people who had been trying to help, they were all kind of gathered at the house, and they were all scared. So Maurice starts hanging out at the house, just waiting for this next incident to take place, along with some other reporters. And that happens on September 8th, around 1 a.m., when they hear a loud crash in the girls' room again. And they went in to find both of them still asleep and a chair flipped over about a meter away from where it had been. And this is what convinced him to stay and investigate properly. Bitch, if a freaking chair flipped over, I think I would wake up.
Yeah, exactly. Unless it was like silent.
But they heard a loud crash.
Oh, yeah, I would wake up. Or like, yeah, get up and fucking move the chair. Unless they were like, I'm scared, I'm not getting up.
Yeah.
Which I would, yeah.
I'm just gonna pretend I'm asleep so the ghosts don't fuck with me. Yeah. He, along with the other, reporters and everything who was kind of staying with him, he'd also called for backup as well. So other investigators from the society were coming in. And they reported seeing flying marbles, spoons, boxes, a sofa rising up into the air and flipping over and crashing down.
Jesus.
Yeah. Maurice, like I said, sent for backup. And one of those men came over on September 12th. His name was Guy Playfair, who eventually went on to write, the book about this case.
Mm-hmm.
But Maurice is still the main, investigator throughout the story. On the 25th of September, so almost a month in now, it said that the family were chased out of the house, and they went to stay up the road with Peggy's brother, and while his wife was making tea, a Lego brick appeared in front of her and dropped onto the table. So now they're thinking this entity can follow them.
Oh, God.
By November, the council, who couldn't just assign them a different house, said, we can at least send you away for a week. So they went to the beach, and the only reported incident during that time was the sound of a dog barking from Janet's bed. So on November 5th, Maurice decides he wants to communicate with the spirit. 1 knock for no, and 2 knocks for yes. So he asks, are you a male spirit? And there are 2 knocks.
Wow.
Did you used to live in the house? And there are 2 knocks. Did you die in this house? 2 knocks. Are you unhappy? 1 knock. That's nice. Are you here? Is it because you want to give us a special message? 1 knock. Are you having a game with me? He doesn't get any knocks, but he gets a cardboard box and a pillow thrown at him.
Bruh.
There was a bunch of other stuff that happened that I didn't want to go step by step, but they had a variety of psychics come in, different kinds of, investigators, psychics, mediums. The Warrens, Ed and Lorraine Warren, came in, and they all tried different things to communicate all this, try and figure out what's happening. On December 3rd, Morris found Janet sliding down the stairs head first while she was sleeping after she had been pulled out of bed. So she had been dragged out of bed and down the stairs.
What a weird sleepwalk.
Right?
The fuck?
Janet began speaking in different voices, so they taped, a different voice. So they taped her mouth shut, but the voice still continued. And they started referring to the voice as Bill, a man who had previously died in the house. And they even contacted Bill's son to verify, how he died to see if it matched what the voice was saying. And it did.
Oh, boy.
So at one point, Janet was put under hypnosis. I think she's 12 by this point. Mm-hmm. Do you know who is doing this? Me and my sister. Why do you think you are to blame? I don't know who is. What does it feel like? Cold hands gripping me around my body. Who started the trouble? None of us. What is the cause of the trouble? An increase in unhappiness.
Huh.
December 15th, Janet is seen levitating up and down, laying down, light as a feather, stiff as a boarding.
Yeah.
By the local lollipop lady who looked over the house. That's a British word. What are they called over here?
Mm-hmm.
They're at schools. They have the stick. Crossing guard?
Yeah.
The lady that stands in the crosswalk while all the kids cross the street.
Yeah, crossing guard.
Okay, in the UK they're called lollipop ladies.
That's really silly.
Because the sign looks like a lollipop.
Oh, okay.
And
I like that better.
They're always women. It's way more whimsical. Lollipop lady. Okay, she was seen by the local lollipop lady floating up and down. And the lollipop lady looked over to the house because she heard thuds from books being thrown at the window. And then, like, looked over and then sees Janet levitating. And there are photographs of this, by the way.
Oh, God.
So
I can't wait to see them.
I can send you some in a minute. On December 23rd, I was waiting for him to be, that's my birthday. The goldfish are found dead, and Bill said he electrocuted them with spirit energy.
Okay.
And then on Christmas Day, their pet parakeet was also found dead.
Okay.
And later that day, Janet would later be found with a curtain wrapped around her neck.
Okay.
Being strangled. She told her mom that a knife was following her all over the house prior to that. And Peggy found a knife upstairs. On January 15th, Peggy's birthday, she found writing on the wall in poop.
Oh, come on now.
Yeah. So that wasn't the end. Activity did eventually die down, but it never really stopped, allegedly. More like it went back to being a normal haunting of just like seeing apparitions.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than all this like crazy stuff happening. It is worth noting that Janet moved out of the house only 4 years later when she was 16.
It's probably a good idea.
We don't know if, she insists the whole time that it wasn't her, but...
She might have been, like, psychotic.
Many people believe that's why the activity died down, and there's something, unfortunately, called the naughty little girl theory, which I just hate.
I hate it, actually, yeah.
But it's because most documented poltergeist cases seem to center on an adolescent girl. And it's believed that they're just doing it to get attention. Whether it's attention because there is some mental health issues going on, and like obviously, she said an increase in unhappiness. And like the mom did not have a good relationship with their dad, and like the kids were scared of the dad. That's why he did not live with them and that kind of thing. So like there might be some other kind of abuse or something that had happened. So it might have been a result of abuse or trauma or, whatever. But it's pretty accepted that most things attributed to poltergeist activity has been called a hoax. And I mentioned that the Warrens were some of the people who went in to do investigations here. The Conjuring 2 is based on this case.
Oh. I haven't seen either of the Conjurings, to be honest.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of them. Yeah. The only one I really want to watch is... I can't remember which one it is. Is it The Devil Made Me Do It? That kind of... it's the one that came out in like 2020, 2021. Yeah, The Devil Made Me Do It. That's the only one I kind of want to watch. And that's just because of the case that it's based on.
Right.
Anyway, that's kind of what I have about types of hauntings. I think it's interesting, once again, that it's only adolescent girls being blamed for this kind of activity.
Oh, God. Yeah, because they're so naughty.
Yeah, naughty little girls.
Naughty little girls. They're just getting up to some nefarious, fun things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there are too many people out there who have considered themselves skeptics, who have had an unexplainable experience that's made them change their mind for things to be dismissed so easily, but I still remain a skeptic.
Yeah.
I want to have an experience.
Yeah.
But I just never have.
I get it.
It's like when people walk into rooms and they're like, oh, I feel lightheaded up here. Ugh. In like the pharmacy museum when we were in New Orleans, that place was supposed to be haunted, and I did get lightheaded upstairs, but so did Seth. And I was like, the floor is like fucking crooked as fuck. Like, of course you're gonna get lightheaded and feel discombobulated up there because you're the shit in your ears that's making you feel balanced is getting all kinds of fuckered up.
Yeah, that's true.
That's my opinion on the matter.
I'll share my opinions when we discuss in the next episode. Good lord. There's all kinds of noises happening here. It's the house settling.
Oh, my bathroom door started squeaking, so every time Shannon goes into the bathroom, it's just like...
Ugh.
Sounds like a haunted house.
Some WD-40.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, well, this has been Types of Hauntings with Georgia.
We gotta get us some EMF readers.
Bitch, I have a fucking EMF detector.
I need to get me an EMF reader.
Let's go on a ghost hunt.
Yes.
Stay tuned for a special episode where we go on a ghost hunt.
Yeah. Do that in the fall times. Peak spooky times.
Oh, actually, stay tuned because I can tell you about the time that I did go on a ghost hunt in the next episode.
Yeah. Recording stopped. Woo! Woo!
Well, that concludes this week's broadcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you wish to stay in touch, reach out to us at broadcastfromthebelfry@gmail.com or stalk us on Instagram at broadcastfromthebelfry. Again, I hope you've enjoyed our little show. Please rate and review. And until next week, stay spooky.